October 3rd, 1943, 30,000 hunts, feet above the icy North Sea. The deafening roar of engines filled the bomber's fuselage as the waist gunner pressed his frozen cheek against the cold metal of his .50 caliber Browning machine gun. Through his frosted goggles, he saw a Messerschmitt 109 slashing through the formation, just 200 yards away. His instinct screamed to aim straight at the oncoming German fighter, to center the reticle and squeeze the trigger. But training whispered something different. He aimed 6 aircraft lengths behind. The Browning thundered. 2 seconds later, the fighter erupted into a ball of fire. The gunner had just proven a truth that defied every human instinct. When shooting from a moving aircraft, aiming directly at the target guaranteed a miss. This was the essence of position firing, a counterintuitive method that would transform terrified bomber gunners into deadly marksmen who understood that physics, not instinct, ruled survival in the skies. But this revelation had begun 3 years earlier. In the barren deserts of Nevada, on January 25, 1941, Colonel Martinez Steneth stepped out of his car and stared across 60 desolate miles outside Las Vegas. Just sand, scrub, and sky. This wasteland, he was told, would become America's first aerial gunnery school. The United States had no facility, no curriculum, and no method for teaching men to fire from moving bombers at moving fighters. British crews over Germany had already learned this failure the hard way. Their static training on the ground made them easy prey for Luftwaffe night fighters. Determined not to repeat that disaster, the U.S. Army Air Corps leased the Nevada desert for $1 a year. By June, barracks, hangars, and makeshift ranges had risen from the dust, and by December 20th, just days after Pearl Harbor, the Las Vegas Army Airfield was activated. Within weeks, the first wave of students arrived, men who had never fired from a moving platform, and were about to learn that survival in aerial combat meant unlearning everything they thought they knew about shooting. Training began simply. Students firing shotguns at clay pigeons to learn deflection, the principle of leading a moving target. But when instructors mounted the guns on the backs of moving trucks, confusion erupted. Every student missed. They were doing exactly as taught, aiming ahead, yet every shot went wide. The revelation came from Sergeant Robert Hayes, a Texas physics teacher turned instructor, who demonstrated with a pendulum that a bullet fired from a moving aircraft inherits the aircraft's forward velocity. A bullet fired sideways from a bomber moving at 300 miles per hour would actually curve forward. To hit a fighter approaching from the side, a gunner had to aim behind it. It felt insane, but the math didn't lie. By summer 1942, the 6-week Las Vegas training program had evolved into a scientific system. Week 1, ground school, mechanics, ballistics, and disassembly of the .50 caliber Browning. Week 2, shotgun trucks, teaching gunners to shoot while in motion. Week 3, manipulation towers, mock turrets tracking wire-pulled dummy fighters. Week 4, the Waller Gunnery Trainer, projected films of attacking aircraft that recorded every hit and miss. Week 5, air-to-air firing, live ammunition at fabric sleeves towed behind aircraft. Week 6, combat simulations and final exams. The washout rate was 20%. Those who passed received silver wings and orders to join bomber crews heading for Europe. By August 1943, the graduates' training faced its ultimate test over Schweinfurt and Regensburg. 376 B-17s thundered deep into Germany, their waist gunners waiting as over 400 German fighters closed in. Losses were catastrophic, 60 bombers destroyed. But for the first time, American gunners fought back effectively. Waist gunners applied what they'd learned. Aim 12 radians behind a fighter approaching from the beam. Fire in short bursts. Watch for impact on the wing route. Physics, not instinct, guided their hands. The results proved the concept. Position firing worked. In the months that followed, Engineers refined the science further with the invention of the British Mach-22 gyro gun sight, later adapted into the American K-14 sight. This device used gyroscopes to calculate deflection automatically. The gunner no longer needed to mentally compute radians or angles. The sight did it for him. When he tracked an enemy fighter, the floating reticle showed exactly where to aim. Accuracy doubled. By mid-1944, bombers with these compensating sights achieved twice the hit rate of those using traditional optics. Training continued to evolve. The most dramatic advance was Operation Pinball. Las Vegas received armored Bell RP-63 King Cobras, nicknamed Pinballs, painted silver and fitted with sensors. Trainees fired frangible bullets that shattered harmlessly on impact, triggering red lights when they scored hits. For the first time, gunners practiced against live aircraft flying realistic attack patterns. Students who trained against pinballs scored 30 to 40% higher in real combat. Across 1943 to 45, more than 214,000 American aerial gunners graduated from 7 gunnery schools, 44,000 from Las Vegas alone. Their collective performance validated the doctrine. Bombers with trained gunners and proper sights destroyed twice as many enemy fighters as untrained crews. Even as P-51 Mustangs began escorting bombers to Berlin, gunners remained critical. In the Pacific, the B-29 Superfortress introduced a revolutionary leap: central fire control. Gunners sat inside pressurized compartments, operating remote-controlled turrets guided by computers that automatically calculated deflection and range. It was position firing brought to its logical extreme. Human instinct replaced entirely by machine precision. By the war's end, position firing had transformed air combat. The Luftwaffe never systematized the method, and Japan's informal training left its bomber gunners tragically unprepared. The U.S., by contrast, built a vast industrial-scale training system that married human adaptability with scientific rigor. It rewired instinct itself, teaching men to do the opposite of what their brains demanded. Aim behind, not ahead. Trust the math, not the gut. After 1945, the gunnery schools closed, but their legacy endured. The Nevada Desert Base became Nellis Air Force Base, home of the Fighter Weapons School and the Thunderbirds. Modern pilots still apply the same physics that Robert Hayes sketched on his chalkboard. The tools are digital, the speeds supersonic, but the principle remains timeless. A projectile inherits the motion of the platform that fires it. To hit, you must aim not where the target is, but where the laws of motion say it will be. In the end, position firing was more than a gunnery technique. It was a testament to human adaptability. It proved that instinct could be retrained, that courage could coexist with calculation, and that survival sometimes depends on doing what feels utterly wrong. Those gunners who learned to aim behind instead of ahead carried with them a truth that transcended war. Physics doesn't care what feels natural. It only cares what works. And high above the skies of Europe and the Pacific, what worked was position firing, the counterintuitive art of trusting mathematics over instinct, and in doing so, changing the outcome of the air war forever. October 3, 1943, 30,000 feet above the icy North Sea. The deafening roar of engines filled the bomber's fuselage as the waist gunner pressed his frozen cheek against the cold metal of his .50 caliber Browning machine gun. Through his frosted goggles, he saw a Messerschmitt 109 slashing through the formation, just 200 yards away. His instinct screamed to aim straight at the oncoming German fighter, to center the reticle and squeeze the trigger. But training whispered something different. He aimed 6 aircraft lengths behind. The Browning thundered. 2 seconds later, the fighter erupted into a ball of fire. The gunner had just proven a truth that defied every human instinct. When shooting from a moving aircraft, aiming directly at the target guaranteed a miss. This was the essence of position firing, a counterintuitive method that would transform terrified bomber gunners into deadly marksmen who understood that physics, not instinct, ruled survival in the skies. But this revelation had begun 3 years earlier. In the barren deserts of Nevada, on January 25, 1941, Colonel Martinez Steneth stepped out of his car and stared across 60 desolate miles outside Las Vegas. Just sand, scrub, and sky. This wasteland, he was told, would become America's first aerial gunnery school. The United States had no facility, no curriculum, and no method for teaching men to fire from moving bombers at moving fighters. British crews over Germany had already learned this failure the hard way. Their static training on the ground made them easy prey for Luftwaffe night fighters. Determined not to repeat that disaster, the U.S. Army Air Corps leased the Nevada desert for $1 a year. By June, barracks, hangars, and makeshift ranges had risen from the dust, and by December 20th, just days after Pearl Harbor, the Las Vegas Army Airfield was activated. Within weeks, the first wave of students arrived, men who had never fired from a moving platform, and were about to learn that survival in aerial combat meant unlearning everything they thought they knew about shooting. She was once one of Hollywood's most adored faces, the golden girl of the silent era, whose grace and beauty captivated audiences everywhere. But behind that dazzling smile, Anita Page carried a secret that would shock even those closest to her. She utterly despised Joan Crawford. To the public, both women seemed destined for greatness, but behind the glamorous lights, jealousy, betrayal, and manipulation simmered beneath the surface. Anita never forgot the humiliation, the icy stares, and the ruthless ambition that tore their friendship apart. For decades, she stayed silent, letting time bury the pain. But as the truth finally came to light, it revealed a darker side of Hollywood's golden age. Born Anita Pomares on August 4, 1910, in Flushing, New York, she was the daughter of Helen and Marino Pomares. Her father, a hairdresser of Spanish and French descent, and her mother, of Scottish and English ancestry, gave Anita her striking, dark-haired, light-eyed beauty. Growing up in New York City, surrounded by the energy of the 1920s, young Anita dreamed of performing. She began her journey as a film extra, one of countless hopefuls working for little pay and no recognition. But those early experiences taught her the rhythm of studio life. Her big break came through a friend, actress Betty Bronson, who introduced her to assistant director Henry Hathaway. He saw her potential and arranged a screen test with MGM producer Harry Raff, who quickly signed her to a contract. The studio reinvented her name to Anita Page, a name soon to sparkle on theater marquees nationwide. Her breakout came in 1928 with Our Dancing Daughters, opposite Joan Crawford. The film captured the spirit of the flapper age, and while it made Crawford a star, it also showcased Anita's talent and beauty, turning her into one of MGM's brightest new faces. But behind the scenes, the relationship between the two actresses soured. Crawford, fiercely ambitious, viewed Anita as competition, and her manipulative behavior left deep scars. Still, Anita's star continued to rise. In 1929, she conquered the transition from silent films to sound with the Broadway Melody, the first talkie to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. It made Anita one of the most beloved actresses in Hollywood, second only to Greta Garbo in Fan Mail at MGM. She starred in one film after another, gracing magazines and red carpets, living the dream every young actress longed for. Yet, even at the height of fame, her personal life was marred by heartbreak. Her fiancé, actor Zeb Pitts, died suddenly in 1929, leaving her devastated. Rumors of a romance with her frequent co-star Ramon Navarro filled gossip columns. Though their relationship was likely a deep friendship rather than a love affair, Anita's beauty and charm also caught the eye of MGM studio head Louis B. Mayer, who allegedly pursued her relentlessly. When she rejected his advances, Mayer reportedly sabotaged her career, allowing her contract to fade. By 1932, Anita's meteoric rise had stalled, and she was quietly pushed out of the spotlight. In 1937, seeking peace and normalcy, she married Navy Lieutenant Herschel A. House and walked away from Hollywood for good. Together, they built a quiet life in Coronado, California, raising two daughters, Sandra and Linda, away from the public eye. Her long, happy marriage lasted over 5 decades until Herschel's passing in 1991. For years, Anita remained one of Hollywood's forgotten stars until the 1990s, when she made a surprising return to acting in small independent films. No longer chasing fame, she simply wanted to enjoy the craft that had once defined her youth. In her later years, Anita became known for her quiet dignity and conservative values. In 2008, at 98 years old, she publicly endorsed Senator John McCain for president, calling him a true American hero, a reflection of her patriotic spirit and the military life she had shared with her husband. That same year, Anita passed away peacefully in her sleep at her Los Angeles home, closing the final chapter of a life that had bridged the silent era and the modern age of film. She was laid to rest in a private ceremony at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City. Anita Page's story remains one of glamour, heartbreak, and resilience. She rose to fame during Hollywood's most dazzling decade, walked away from it all for love and family, and found her way back to the screen on her own terms. More than just a forgotten flapper, Anita Page was a symbol of integrity in an industry built on illusion, a woman who chose happiness over fame and whose quiet strength continues to shine long after the lights of the silent era faded.